I don't know exactly why I'm writing this. I guess I just want to let someone know my story. This story starts back around 2008 to 2009 when I met the love of my life, although I didn't know it at the time. I, 33, M, was fresh out of high school when I met K, 32, F. And we can definitely say it wasn't a love at first sight type thing. If anything, our initial impressions of each other were less than ideal. We initially met through friends we had in common, but after a few weeks of some light chatting online, I decided to invite her out for a bite. Not an official date by any means, just to hang out. After meeting in person for a couple times, we actually started developing a pretty good friendship. I was dating someone else at the time, so wasn't exactly trying to start anything with her. Over the next few months, we became really close. We had a lot of common interests and very compatible. It felt great being around her, and I know she felt the same way. Few more months and I started falling for her, and before I could do anything about it, she started dating a friend of mine. So I had to step back a little, and we both moved on with our great friendship. Months later, I myself got into a relationship, and at that point, Kay and I just went on without lives in parallel. Eventually, in the many times we hung out, things became sexual between us while we were both in relationships. We never really talked about it, and it just kept happening every time we went out and got drunk. We sort of became each other's unofficial booty call, but never had a conversation regarding feelings. Life went on and no actual romantic relationship ever officially began. We had a great friendship, but at some point we both stepped back a little and focused on our separate lives, school, work, and whatnot. Years went by, and around 2014, I eventually started a relationship with my now wife G, 34F, and I know K was also in a relationship with a guy I didn't know at the time, and eventually got engaged as well. Shortly after my wedding, I decided to move to a different state due to a job opportunity, and life went on. 5 or so years later, Kay still married, and with 2 kids of her own to match my 2, we reconnected online. In one of my many trips back to my home state, we decided to meet up for a drink to catch up. She was still as beautiful as the day I met her. If anything, motherhood had really enhanced her beauty. One thing led to another, and we started having an emotional and physical affair. It was as if no time had ever gone by, and we were back in our early 20s. She confessed to me that she had been in love with me at some point in the early days, but admitted that she felt like I wouldn't feel the same way about her. So when the casual sex started, she settled for that and never talked about how she felt for fear of losing what we had at the time. I felt so stupid because that was exactly the way I felt about her. We both realized we had missed our shot. Eventually, we realized the affair couldn't continue as there were too many people that would get hurt if it ever came to light, and we decided, cut all contact and focus on our own marriages. Now let me be very clear. I absolutely loved my wife when I married her. She was perfect in many ways, had a good career, great personality, a good family that absolutely adores me, and unlike many of the girls I dated over the years, absolutely adored by mine. But over the years I started seeing that we weren't as compatible as I initially thought. We have absolutely different tastes in music, movies, and even our hobbies are very different. But we are both absolutely devoted to our kids and family. Well, it's now 2025, and we now have 3 kids and have what many people would call a great marriage. I do everything I can to keep her happy. I buy her anything she wants because she absolutely deserves it. I help her around the house and take her out on dates often. She's an amazing wife, a great mother to my children, and a beautiful woman. Only problem is, I am no longer in love with her. Over the years, we have gone to some couple retreats with our church. Not because we had problems in our marriage, but because we wanted to make our marriage stronger. And I can honestly say we have a very solid marriage. But I know the one thing she wishes is that I would be more involved in our church the way she is. I have no problem with going to church. It's simply not my calling, and I don't enjoy it the way she does. I do participate some to make her happy, but I feel very hypocritical doing so. I do gladly go to church every Sunday with our kids, who are also heavily involved in the children ministry, but I do it mainly to please her, not for my own enjoyment. As far as I know, she is very happy, and by her own admission to me and others, I am a great husband in her eyes. I know it's selfish and wrong on my part, and for the record, I hate feeling this way, but I feel incomplete and somewhat guilty for not being happy with her after so much, like something is missing in my life. That perfect connection just isn't there on my part. About 5 months ago, while visiting my hometown in Colorado, I decided to pay Kay a visit. Just to catch up, like me, she now has 3 kids and seems like she's doing well. We decided to see each other later that night to keep chatting, and it all went 0 to 100 in a heartbeat, like we've never lost contact with each other, started talking and joking around as if we see each other every day. After a few drinks, I asked her if she was truly happy. Without a second thought, she said, "No." She asked me the same and was met with the same response. I explained my situation, and unsurprisingly at this point, she told me she's in a similar spot. Even down to the part that her husband, who is heavily involved in church, would like her to also be as involved. We both laughed at the cruel joke when we realized that our spouses would likely be happily married to each other. We both absolutely love our kids and would always put them first. We both love our spouses but are not in love with them. At the end, we both understood we would have been a great match in marriage and agreed that even though we aren't happy in our respective marriages, we would never find a way to be together no matter how much we loved each other, as we would never want to hurt our kids or our spouses, even though our actions at the moment could suggest otherwise. We spent that night together, and the next morning we showered, had breakfast, kissed, and quietly parted ways, and haven't had any contact since then. Didn't think it sounded like the plot of a movie until I wrote all this. Except in this movie, there likely won't be a happy ending for me or her. I love her, and I do want to be with her, but I truly hope I never see Kay again. The cruel reminder of what could have been absolutely breaks me at this point. There is a little empty void inside of me, and I'm not sure I'll ever be able to fill it. I do hope I can do better for my wife and leave all this behind.